Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Brakahagwadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who rule and teach well. And peace and salutations to you, sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Micah chapter 4, verses 1 to 3. But in the last days it shall come to pass that the mountain of the house of Yahweh shall be established in the top of the mountains. And in the scriptures, mountains can be symbolic for governments. And what this is talking about is the kingdom of heaven, the government, the mountain of Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai being established to rule over the planet. And it shall be exalted above the hills, and people shall flow unto it. And many nations, many heathen nations shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh and to the house of the power of Jacob, and we will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. So when the children of Israel are back in the Holy Land, in power, in rulership, ruling over the planet, this planet would be governed under the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High in the scriptures, which people know as the Old Testament and the New Testament of the Bible, and the Apocrypha as well, which is a part of the Old Testament. And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And also, when the children of Israel were back in the Holy Land, these other nations wouldn't learn war or fight wars anymore. Now, with this all being biblical prophecy and you using critical thinking, can you say that these prophecies apply to those people over in the Holy Land right now, calling themselves ISRAELISs? Of course not. You don't see these different nations of people flowing unto those people in the Holy Land, who for the rest of the video I'll be referring to as the 1948ers, to learn after the laws, statutes, and commandments in the scriptures. You've got a lot of people against those 1948ers for how they treat those Palestinian Arabs. You don't see people wearing those Shirley Temple curls or yarmulkes on their head, speaking that Yiddish or that modern form of Hebrew, or that other modern form of Hebrew they use, which is based off of the Assyrian script. And over there, you have what? A parliament and a government with laws that are separate from the scriptures. Tel Aviv is known as Pink City, and it's one of the pride hotspots on the entire planet. They have slut walks over in Tel Aviv, and they've also got kosher pork. And we can clearly see that war is still taking place on the face of the earth. And according to biblical prophecy, World War III and nuclear destruction hasn't even taken place yet. And the reason that these prophecies in Micah chapter 4, verses 1 through 3 haven't been fulfilled is because the true children of Israel aren't in the Holy Land. Imposters are over there who have appointed the land into their possession, as it says in Ezekiel chapter 36, verse 5. Therefore, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea, which is the Greek way of saying Edom. So Edomites are over in the Holy Land right now with it in their possession. More specifically, Amalekite Edomites, those Jewish's, and that word ish is a suffix which means pertaining to or trying to be like to, because they aren't the true children of Israel, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. And how did those 1948ers get the Holy Land into their possession? It was appointed into their possession with the groundwork being laid with the Balfour Declaration, which one of the Rothschilds, who's also a 1948er, set up back in 1918. And then the deal was further cemented in 1948 with the ISRAELIS Declaration of Independence, which was helped with a lot of UN charters and treaties. And immediately after that, you had the Arab 1948er war. Then you had the 6 Days War in the 60s and many other wars all the way up until this very day. So again, clearly, those people over in the Holy Land right now aren't the true children of Israel. The true children of Israel are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And until the true children of Israel are back in the Holy Land, beginning with the elect of the nation of Israel, there's still going to be wars and wickedness and violence taking place, not just in the Holy Land, but on the rest, throughout the rest of the earth. And I opened up the video with these verses to preface a video from Wyon's YouTube channel, just to further show that those people over there right now, the 1948ers, aren't the true people of the Most High. They're those Idumeans that have appointed the land into their possession. And the title of the video is Gravitas, Jordan's King Abdullah II warns the 1948ers. And this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this clip, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And this title alone shows that those 1948ers aren't the people, because as it says, Jordan's King Abdullah II warns Israel, but as it said back in Micah chapter 4, verse 2, it said, "And many nations shall come and say, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh and to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem." So when the true children of Israel would be back in the Holy Land, there would be no other heathen nations warning them of consequences for actions they're taking or trying to go to war against them. They would be completely under their subjection and coming unto them to learn after the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High. But as we'll see in this video, it's not the case. People are bucking up to those 1948ers, again, with how they're dealing with the Palestinians over there and just their constant violent and warlike nature that they have. But let's play this clip.
For our next story, we turn to Israel, the promised land. The country's former leader has made a promising comeback. I am talking about Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving premier, the comeback king, a moniker he always lives up to. And I say this because in his long political career, Netanyahu has been written off several times, and each time he has made a stronger comeback. And this time it's no different. After just 17 months in opposition, Netanyahu has made yet another stunning comeback. He has been sworn in as the prime minister once again, and guess what he plans to do now? One of Netanyahu's first moves will be this: strengthening the settlements in the West Bank, legalizing dozens of previously built Jewish outposts. And in the long...
Again, if those 1948ers, the Idumeans, were the true children of the Most High, they wouldn't have to worry about annexing territory in the West Bank, because the West Bank is a part of the land of Israel, and those Palestinian Arabs over there, who are the biblical Ishmaelites, wouldn't have any problems with those 1948er settlers moving in and building settlements there. But again, they're imposters, hence why there's constant friction between those 1948ers and those Palestinian Arabs in the Holy Land, which neither of you belong there.
Annex the entire territory. I'm not saying this, Netanyahu is. On Wednesday, in fact, his incoming government, which is going to be the most religious and the most right-wing government in history, released a lengthy coalition agreement, an agreement between all its hardline allies. And here's what the agreement states. 1. Advance and develop settlements in all parts of Israel, including Judea and Samaria, the biblical names for the West Bank. 2. Legalize wildcat settlement outposts in line with Israel's national and international interests. Number 3, expand and vastly increase government funding for Israeli settlements. Now, these are some big moves, and they could put the new government at.
And again, you have a government and parliament which elects a prime minister in the land of Israel right now, which is something completely foreign and separate from the scriptures. They're not even following after the laws, statutes, and commandments. Hey, those 1948ers don't believe in the Messiah or the New Testament, and they use the Talmud over the Torah and the Tanakh, which the Talmud is wicked. And again, if they were the true people of the Most High, and as it said back in that Micah chapter 4, verse 2, people would be flowing unto them to learn after the ways of the Most High. You'd see everybody out here with a Talmud in their house, learning after the ways of that book.
With Israel's allies, even Israel's own people for that matter. And I say this because what these moves intend to do is change the status quo of the West Bank, a region that Palestinians consider to be the heartland for their future independent state. For the unversed, this is the region I'm talking about. This chunk of land located east of Israel, it's home to nearly 3 million Palestinians. In 1967, Israel took control of this region, and since then it has allowed Jewish settlers to move in, but many still consider it illegally occupied Palestinian land. And it doesn't end there. In 2002, Israel approved construction of a barrier around the West Bank after a series of deadly attacks by Palestinian militants. This barrier has electronic fence.
They constructed a barrier due to a series of deadly attacks back in 2002. But what it's saying in Micah chapter 4, verse 3, that the nations would beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks, and they wouldn't learn war anymore. And as it also says in Isaiah chapter 60, verse 18, when the true children of Israel were back in the land, violence shall no more be heard in thy land, wasting nor destruction within thy borders, but thou shalt call thy walls salvation and thy gates praise. And we can clearly see that violence is still taking place in the Holy Land right now. As they just said, a barrier was Salakia. A barrier was constructed around the West Bank due to a series of deadly attacks back in 2002. And then there's constantly attacks and violence taking place between the 1948ers and the Palestinians with groups like Hamas. Missile attacks going back and forth, gunshots, you name it. I actually knew a Palestinian in high school who said he had visited Palestine before. He had a few cousins there that were throwing rocks at the IDF, which is the 1948er Defense Force. And then in response, the IDF started shooting at him with rubber bullets, and they killed one of his cousins because their rubber bullets had metal bits in the middle of it. Just complete madness. Just another example to show that those are Idumeans over there that appointed the lands into their possession. And really, let's go to Joel chapter 3 real quick. This is Joel chapter 3, verse 2. I'll read verse 1, and this is dealing with the battle in the valley of Jehoshaphat, or Yahweh-Shaphat, in that Middle Eastern region, when the Most High is going to gather down these heathen nations down into that region to punish them for afflicting the apple of his eye, the true children of Israel, who are again known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And at the top of that list, as pursuant to Psalms chapter 83, are you Edomites, and you Idumeans over in the Holy Land are Amalekite Edomites. The nations will be judged For behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, which in the Hebrew is Yahweh Shaphat, or Yahweh's judgment, and will plead or judge with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. And the Holy Land is parted right now between those 1948ers and those Palestinian Arabs or Ishmaelites. Neither of you belong there because you're both squatters, and very soon you're about to get evicted from that land.
Ditches, and watchtowers. Its concrete walls measure around 8 to 9 meters high. It has strips of razor wire around 70 to 80 meters wide. The aim of this barrier was to encircle Palestinian communities. And it didn't end there. Israel also started sending settlers to the West Bank. And these settlers set up civilian communities that were majorly of Jewish ethnicity. I have some numbers for you now. As of 20...
Ish, that suffix meaning pertaining to or trying to be like, not the original thing.
22, there are 140 Israeli settlements in the West Bank, and they include over 12 settlements in East Jerusalem. In addition, there are over 100 Israeli military posts here. And
what's the need for military outposts if, as it said in Isaiah 60 verse 18, that violence would no more be heard in thy land?
If I speak of settlers, over 450,000 of them live in the West Bank. In East Jerusalem, there are an additional 220,000 settlers. So Israel's planned move is to give legitimacy to these settlements, a move that the Palestinian authorities are calling illegal. They say that this move violates several UN principles. The spokesperson of the Palestinian presidency has issued a statement, in fact.
Hey, you've got the Palestinian authorities rejecting Netanyahu's remarks on strengthening settlements in the West Bank because it violates several UN regulations. But when the true children of Israel were back in the Holy Land, again, as it said, for the law shall go forth of Zion and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, the only sovereign, ruling body of laws in the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of Israel, would be the laws, statutes, and commandments in the scriptures. It wouldn't be sharing anything with the United Nations or any other form of heathen government rule of law.
It says, and I'm quoting from it, the announcement is contradictory to all resolutions of international legitimacy, most notably resolution number 2334 issued by the UN Security Council. Now remember, in December 2016, the UN Security Council had asked Israel to immediately cease all settlement activities and withdraw itself from the area. The Palestinian presidency wants the incoming government to abide by this. Hamas, the Palestinian Islamist movement, has also issued a detailed statement. It has warned that such policies will trigger major unrest in Israel. Listen to this.
It is clear today we are facing a new Zionist government, the most extreme, terrorist, racist and fascist government, with policies that clearly escalate the aggression against our sanctities, our people and our Palestinian land. This opens the way to real escalation on the ground in all arenas. We in Hamas movement issue a clear warning that the policies of this incoming government represent a triggering point for major unrest, which may extend beyond Palestine.
And it gets more interesting. Have a look at this headline. The King of Jordan, Abdullah II, has also jumped into this debate. He has warned the incoming government against crossing any red lines, primarily on Jerusalem's holy sites. Remember, Jerusalem borders the state of Israel and the West Bank. And the King of Jordan says that this alleged expansion plan should not do any harm to Jerusalem's holy sites. Let me tell you his reasons behind this. First, let me read out the statement that he made. I'm quoting: "If people want to get into a conflict with us, we are quite prepared. I always like to believe."
If people want to get into a conflict, a violent conflict with us, then we are prepared for it. But what do we read again back in Micah chapter 4, verse 3, when the children of Israel were back in the Holy Land? "And he shall judge among many people and rebuke strong nations afar off. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up a sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore."
That let's look at the glass half full, but we have certain red lines, and if people want to push those red lines, then we will deal with that.
That's pretty much it with this video. You get the point. So as we can clearly see, things just don't add up with those 1948ers over in the Holy Land right now, because they don't fulfill prophecy dealing with what the true children of Israel would be doing and going through when they were back in the Holy Land. But those 1948ers fulfill prophecies dealing with the heathens who have appointed the land into their possession. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong. As we can clearly see, we're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.